So it's
This is
on
Sean
Anthony.
Anthony Live, and I'm your host, Sean Anthony. And joining me is a veteran in the game, actor, producer, comedian, Mr. Bill Bellamy. How are you today, sir?
Bro, Sean, I'm in the building, Playboy. Hold on, man.
Yeah.
Hold on, man. Let me just get you locked in. Let's start up. I'm gonna switch glasses. These are the gray ones. I'm gonna just lock in so we coordinate.
Okay.
Holla! You got your gray joints on. I got my gray joints on. What's up, Playboy?
Hey man, it's a pleasure to finally get a chance to interview you. As long as I've been in the game, man, I've never had an opportunity to chop it up with you. You've been doing this for a very long time, man. What would you say has contributed to your longevity?
Oh man, I just keep evolving. You know what I'm saying? I never got stuck in one lane. You know, I just keep staying relevant and sort of evolving with my brand, and I think that, and then just working hard, like just staying consistent. Consistency gives you longevity too. I always say I gotta be like McDonald's, I gotta be like Pepsi, I gotta be like Coca-Cola. You say Bill Bellamy, you already know what it is. Guaranteed money, it's guaranteed style, flavor, culture. I try to incorporate all those things in my brand.
Absolutely, man. There's footage floating around on the internets of things of Janet Jackson blotting your face with makeup. Now, not too many comedians can stunt like that. You know what I'm saying? Do you ever feel?
I don't even want to flex on you cats like that.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, just trying to be cool, but y'all be, you right, what happened?
That's what I'm saying. Like, do you ever feel the need to remind folks of your resume, MTV Jams, the biggest interviews ever with Michael Jackson, of course, Janet, and so many others, man?
Prince, Michael Jordan. Here's the thing about me. When my book comes out in later part of the year, I think when people read my story, when people see my contribution to the culture, like I'm like the Black Dick Clark. You know what I'm saying? I put a lot of cats on, man, and cats who know, at that opportunity, I was at the right place at the right time. There was a wave that Black hip hop caught, pop music caught. I was the ambassador for that. So I was always supporting, my people. Like when Destiny Child first came out, when Jay was just crossing over, Diddy came out, you know what I mean? I was there, big. Tupac, Snoop first album, you know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson on his history album, Janet Jackson, The Velvet Rope, That's the Way Love Goes. Like I was right there, No diggity, no doubt with T. Riley, Blackstreet. Like, yo, that was me. And cats forget, you gotta remind them. So when they see it, they go, oh, that's right.
Yep. You were there?
I was there with DMX on that first joint, Party Up in Here, Lil Kim, Money, Power, Respect, Money, Power, Respect, Money, Power, Respect. That was my whole era right there. You kidding me?
Right. I remember you telling a story about the time that you had the opportunity to interview Michael Jackson, and you shared a funny story about him interrupting the interview, saying he had to go. He had to go pee-pee. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious, man. But you said you met Prince. What was that like? Is there something that you could share with the listeners here in Ohio that, we may have never heard about meeting Prince?
For me, was that I didn't know what he would be like, right? Because to me, Prince was like this, vampire or something. I thought maybe he was a vampire, and I was like, yo, I can't look at this dude because he gonna hypnotize you or something and you would turn into a vampire. Like, I didn't know what to think because I always had this like bugged out idea in my head that Prince was like this like mystical character of sorts, right?
Right.
And so when I went out to Minneapolis and I interviewed him, I didn't know how cool he was. Like, I thought his regular voice was, call my name, babe. But his regular voice was like this. What's happening? I was like, yo, because his regular voice was cool. He was like a baritone type voice.
Right,
He was
right.
like, yo, man, check it out. You want something to drink? Wine, anything cool, you know what I'm saying, Bill? I appreciate what you're doing for the culture. I appreciate how you coming out here and really solidify what I'm doing for the artist. Now, what you don't realize, and most people, unless you do your music history, Prince was one of the first artists to sue the record label and win and get ownership of his own name. So at the time when I interviewed him, he was going as the symbol,
Right.
formerly known as Prince, because Warner Brothers actually owned his name. He didn't even own him.
Yeah. And
Ain't that
you know what's
crazy?
crazy about it? I was a fan, back then. I wasn't in the industry yet. Well, I think I was interning, but it was at the beginning of my career. But nobody understood what was going on with Prince when he had that on his face. But you had the
Yeah,
exclusive interview.
right. I had this exclusive interview because you got to understand it was crazy. Nobody ever heard of nothing like this. One, nobody ever heard that, your name ain't yours. It's like some slave stuff. And then on top of that, he was like, nah, y'all ain't write my music. Y'all ain't create me. And I'm going to go to war with y'all. And so he put out that album with the symbol.
Right.
We didn't even know what to call him.
Right. Right.
Like, are you a G clef? I didn't know what he was. I didn't know what the symbol was.
Musical note sign that
I was like, yo,
out of this
what
universe.
is it? Yeah, right. And but he won, man, and he was a very pioneering artist. He was self-made, man. He was a wonderful genius musician. Because people always ask me, what's the difference between Michael Jackson and Prince? And I always tell people, Michael was one of the greatest singer entertainers. Prince was one of the greatest singer musicians.
Mhm. I agree with that.
Played like 9 instruments. Like, yo, people don't give Prince his flowers. He could jump on the bass,
Yep.
jump on the keys, jump on the horn, jump on the drum. Like he was called self-taught.
I want to transition to being a comedian, but before that, man, you were like one of the top, first media personalities in our culture, in hip hop and just popular culture. Do you see yourself going back to that? Has MTV tried to reach back out to you? Any television shows? Because you've already set the precedence as a great host. Do you see yourself returning back to television as a host?
I could potentially. I have something that I'm developing. I mean, it's a possibility. I think the timing, it would be nice. I think it's time, for somebody that people like, that people can trust, that know that they know what they're talking about, and can be a representative. I think it's time for us to have one. Actually, it's possible. It's possible. I'm not going to leak it. It's possible.
Okay. So, Bill Bellamy, you've been a comedian for decades, man. You definitely have skin in the game. And lately, we've seen this emergence of comedians, obviously due to social media. How do you feel about someone claiming the title to be a comedian without doing stand-up?
Well, you can't say you're a comedian if you don't do stand-up. You can be comedic. You can be funny. I don't think you can be a comedian without doing stand-up, practicing, doing shows, little shows, big shows, medium shows. You know what I mean? That's how you become a stand-up comic. You got to do the reps. But what I do like about the new guys, and I've said this in other interviews, is like I think the internet is their deaf comedy. I think if you're funny and you got a way to do it, you can do it in your phone, you can edit, you can add sound effects, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. We didn't have that opportunity 25 years ago, right? So I'm not gonna knock the hustle. You just gotta explain. You gotta understand and explain. Not explain. You gotta understand and respect this new hustle, this new wave. Now, will that make you a better comedian because you got funny skits? No. Skits are skits, stand up is stand up. You got a microphone, you got a stool, and you got some water. And let's go. All the greats did it. That's how they did it. It ain't gonna change because we got internet. If you want to be a funny ass comedian, you got to get out here and stand there and talk. And you better be funny.
Right. You know, recently T.I. Has been catching some flack, man. Do you have any words of wisdom to T.I. as he's starting off this endeavor?
Just raps. You know, I posted something about it because people always ask me, and I'll give you this analogy. Stand up is like benching 225, right? You go in the gym, most cats can't bench 225 on their first try. It's too heavy. You got to work at 225, right? 225 is really heavy. So you got to get it off the rack. You got to bring it down, lift it up, and put it back in the rack by yourself. Nobody's spotting you. That's comedy. Now, if you go to the gym every day, 4 days a week, 2 days a week, and you work out in the gym, eventually you can bench 225. But you're not going to bench 225 on your first day at the gym. Trust me, it's one or two people going to be able to do that.
Yep.
So
I can definitely understand that analogy. I work out.
Yeah, you got to get in the gym 225 rounds.
Yep. And you know, and 315 is the weight that separates the men from the boys. You know what I'm saying?
315 ain't nobody messing.
That's what separates the men from the boys. You know, from my understanding, being on the road, you know, as a comedian's livelihood, what has been the biggest adjustment for you, Bill Bellamy, during the past 2 years dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, nobody was working like that. The only venues that were open were comedy venues because they were the right size. It just made me realize how important comedy is to people, to our culture, how much we do need to laugh, and Black folks love to laugh, right? That's what we do. We cut up, act crazy, do our thing. And when I wasn't able to do that to service my fans, I felt really weird. I was like, I've never been in that position before when I couldn't just make people feel good. And so I just started doing stuff on social media to kind of help people get through the pandemic. And believe it or not, people was like, Bill, that is so cool. Like, you just make us laugh. You don't know what we're going through. And we just go on your page and we get it in. Now, I didn't have that opportunity 25 years ago. You just wouldn't see me nowhere until I showed up, right? So that was a wonderful thing. And now that things are open back up, I think people are really coming back to comedy, which is awesome.
Absolutely. You know, I do get a chance to check out some of your social media posts, man. And I appreciate the backstories that you tell of all of these things that we've heard about, you know, for many, many years. And then you open it up to stuff that you didn't even know that went down. Like, I think it was like, I can't remember the story specific, but you were talking about a show that happened in the Bay Area and it got really, really tense. And, you know, but just that kind of perspective, like you said, we didn't have social media coming up. So it gives an opportunity.
You had to be there.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like, you know, in the 90s, you had to be there. We didn't have nobody recording on our phones or these events. So I have so many memories logged in my brain. So when you read my book or I tell a story, people are really engaged because they remember that time. You know, I think the story you're talking about is when I met the Grape Street Crips. They threw water on me at the show.
Y'all got to go on Bill Bellamy Instagram and check out these stories, y'all.
You a buster, homie. That's the way. And Ice-T saved my life, man. I love Ice-T to this day, man. He called me anything. I'm picking up Ice-T. He called break down. I gotta go get T. T saved my life. He was like, man, let homie do his thing, man.
Yeah. Look, man, I know you got a show tonight, but before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, for like aspiring comedians and just me personally, I'm curious, how do you write jokes? What is your process? What kind of tidbits can you give somebody that's looking to get into the game?
Well, I mean, everybody thinks differently. You know, I always think that your life writes the script for you. So your experiences and your perspective is where your most funny stuff will come from, how you feel about it, you know, what you went through, you know what I'm saying? So all the great guys, from Richard Pryor to Bill Cosby to George Carlin, they always talk about their life and what they go through. So tell the truth, tell your truth, how you feel about it. Like, be honest on stage. And I think eventually when you realize your voice and you tune into who you are and you lock in, that's where your humor comes from, because that's how you really feel. That's
do you write though, or is it just all mental?
Yeah, no, I write all.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't just, I mean, I'm not a computer. Like if I write it down and then I gotta practice it, you
Right.
know, and then I gotta get all the beats in it, you know what I'm saying? Because jokes to me is like music. It's certain notes in the verses. So you gotta hit those verses and those notes right for the to make a song. A joke is like a song. Like if it's a hit song, it's got to be right from the beginning, middle to the end, right? So write music.
Gotcha. Who's on Bill Bellamy's Mount Rushmore of comedians? Top 5, give or take.
Oh, that's not that hard for me. So it's gonna be Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. Boom.
Chris
I
Rock.
give it. Yeah. I give it
Man.
to them. That's what these guys did. They laid it down. They made a mark in the game. They gotta get their flowers.
Well, listen, man, I definitely appreciate you taking out the time between shows. Can you plug? I know you're in Columbus, Ohio this weekend at the Funny Bone. The dates and times and everything.
Tonight it is going to be 7:45 and 10:15. Friday night and Saturday same times. I'm doing 4 shows. Happy Easter, Columbus. I just love this city. I love the vibe. I love the glow up of all the new businesses and bars and stuff. It wasn't like this 10, 12 years ago. So I love the new look. I love the vibe. And shout out to Ohio State. I see you, Buckeyes. What up?
That's what's up. Bill Bellamy, appreciate you, man.
Bro.
Take care.
Thank you, man. I'll catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir.